I moved to Herman because of the history of this town. It's also the most picturesque town I think that I've ever seen. And so preserving the history of this town means a lot to me. And festivals like Maifest are very important to preserve that history. It's who we are. But Maifest numbers were pretty low before I came in. And if we lose Maifest, we lose part of who we are.
Herman was established for the express purpose of preserving the German language and culture. Scouts were sent out to choose a location for this colony. They went to Texas and Iowa and other places and then settled on this location because of its landscape. It was just a reminder of home, of the Rhine Valley. And the community just grew, as communities do, but always maintained the strong attachment to their German culture and German heritage because they were German. Their background was largely German in the beginning. One of the ways that it continued to preserve the culture was the end of school year picnic. It was called the May Picnic. That was a celebration of the end of school. The children would march out to the park. We'd be waving our little American flags. Teachers would have games organized, and children knew how to play outside and just entertain themselves. That was the end of school year picnic. It predated Maifest as we know it, but as early as 1850, there was a nucleus of people who wisely recognized that there was something here that needed to be preserved. Their idea was, let's expand on the end of school year picnic through an event that capitalizes on our history, that capitalizes on our German heritage and culture. We hope that people will be attracted to Herman. And so that was the beginning of the Maifest. At that point in time, in 1952, there were no festivals like the Maifest in the surrounding area. The Maifest, the way it started out, was a huge, huge event and took community-wide support. The Maifest pageant alone had like 200 people in its cast. When you think about initially when they were expecting 5,000 people and instead they had 25 to 50,000 people, it was a huge draw. It kind of filled a niche. I think besides the economic impact, it did bring people's attention to our history through a historical pageant, through beard contests, through all kinds of music and dancing events, through house tours. And out of it then grew a real movement, a real preservation movement. But I think it's hard to know just exactly what the impact of Maifest had on what Herman is today. Of course, when the first winery reopened, that had an immediate additional impact. I think these other events and the opening of the wineries and the distilleries and breweries grew out of what the Maifest began.
The big thing about Herman is I think that we know that tourism is our economic development. Without tourism, this town wouldn't be where it's at today. It wouldn't look the way it does today without tourism. The thing is we want to make sure all the tourists know our history. So one of the reasons I wanted to be the chairman of Maifest was because preserving the history of this town is very important to me. It's very motivating to me to know that people came together to make this event happen and we're still doing it today. When it was presented to me, I looked at it a whole new way. And I looked at it as an event with history. But Maifest numbers were pretty low before I came in.
One of the reasons that I believe that the Maifest isn't what it was is because of the major proliferation of events everywhere. People today can go anywhere, any weekend, in the middle of the week to a variety of different events. House tours were a very important part of the Maifest. People don't want people coming into their houses anymore simply because of how our culture has changed some through the years. honestly, you can come to Herman any weekend and even during most of the week do the same things, see the same things that you could on a Maifest weekend. And so in order for the Maifest really to be successful, somehow we have to get back to the kinds of events that happened early on or find something that draws people.
My personal goal for Maifest is to keep it alive and to keep it relevant in today's world. This year, Maifest numbers were up. We were all very excited. People in town were ecstatic. It was unreal to feel that feeling. You always hear, this isn't the Maifest I remember. But this year, what we heard was, this is a new Maifest that's preserving what we remember. The goal is next year that we bring back the pageants that Lois talks so highly of. I'd like to see it on more streets, more people involved, having maybe in a reenactment throughout town. We'll never be a Maifest of the 1950s, but we will be the future of Maifest. If Herman forgot where they came from, I think that we lose who we are. We've got to keep that history alive, and keeping that history alive is through Maifest.